This program was made possible in part through a donation from Plumb Perfect Incorporated, a quality plumbing shop.
I'm Marilyn Priel, producer and host with The Better Part. On November 11, 2009, a celebration was held in Santa Cruz, California. It was to honor the 54th Coast Artillery Regiment, an all-black unit which protected our coast from enemy attack during World War II. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
I would like to introduce our guest. Our first is William Jackson, Sr. He is one of the 2 remaining soldiers in the area who were stationed to protect our coast after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Our second guest is his son, William Jackson, Jr., a Vietnam veteran. He is on the executive board of the American Legion in Redwood City, California. Thank you both for coming. And Mr. Jackson, the 54th Coast Artillery Regiment, was that part of the Western Division Command?
Yes, it was.
Where did the 54th originate?
The 54th originated in Camp Wallace, Texas in February 1941. It was there for a while, 2 or 3 months, when all of the men were coming into the service, and then they went from Camp Wallace, Texas to Camp Davis, North Carolina, where we had most of our training, and we were there for until February 1942.
You were at one time set to be shipped out to Germany, and that didn't happen, did it?
What happened is that when Pearl Harbor was bombed, we had already 8 months of training in artillery. We were one of the few outfits that were ready when the war happened. So we left Camp Davis, North Carolina in February 42 on the way to Germany. And apparently something happened down at Santa Barbara Beach or Santa Barbara Harbor that they thought it might have been a submarine or a bomb. So they decided that, hey, we need some more protection for the coast. And since we had already had all this training, they decided to set us down here on the coast to protect the coast. So that's what happened. We had batteries from Pacific Grove, Santa Cruz, Morro Bay, Pismo Beach.
I was wondering how many artillery sites they actually had placed along the coast.
Well, we had the 54th Coast Artillery was a regiment, and we had batteries and up and down the coast. Mm-hmm. So we had, Pismo Beach, Pacific Grove, Santa Cruz, Morro Bay, and San Luis Obispo. Okay. That was the part of the regiment. The 2nd Battalion of the 54th Coast Artillery, they went overseas in February of 42 to catch MacArthur when the Japanese ran him out of the Philippine Islands. Part of my outfit went down with him. That was the 2nd Battalion. The 3rd Battalion is the one that remained here on the coast. Mm-hmm. And Santa Cruz, we had a gun there at Santa Cruz. The headquarters was at Capitola.
Okay. Where was this gun located in Santa Cruz?
Near the lighthouse. I can't say specifically where it was located there near the lighthouse, but it was in that area.
Somewhere, okay. So the assignment then was just to man this gunnery, this artillery there, and then you also had the backup because the headquarters were in Capitola.
Yes.
Now, how was black personnel treated in the Army in general at that time?
Well, they were treated as, should I say, second-class citizens as far as their privileges. It was segregated, of course. On the post, there was segregation on the buses. And in general, it was places they still couldn't go because they were black.
I remember reading that on the bases, the bases that were segregated, they had the black groups way out on the edge of the base, and then they didn't use the same cafeteria, or were you able to use?
No, that was also segregated.
Segregated.
Everything was segregated. The cafeterias, the USOs, they were all segregated.
Now, and also I read that you were given, not you in particular, but that the black personnel in general was given older clothing and older equipment to use. Does that sound like anything that you've heard? Or?
I also read that. I saw that. I don't know how true that was, and didn't realize at the time that we were getting the old Army stuff. However, no, we did have the guns. I remember that. We had the Springfield rifle bolt action, and that was from the previous war.
From World War I?
Yes. But as far as the clothing is concerned, I don't...
You looked fine.
Yes.
Oh, good. Because I have seen your picture and you look pretty snappy. So then you said now you couldn't ride on the buses. Did that mean military?
No, I didn't say you couldn't ride on the buses, but if you rode on the buses, you had to go to the rear.
Even if you had your uniform on?
Oh, yeah. As I recall, my first experience is a friend of mine that we were in Texas at this particular time, and he said, well, let's go to town. This is in Houston, and have some fun. So I said, okay. So anyway, on the way there, we had to catch a bus. So we came at the bus stop, just he and I, and got on the bus, and we sat right behind the driver of the bus. It was empty at the time. I assuming that was perhaps his first stop, so the bus was empty. So we got on the bus and sat right behind the driver, maybe 2 seats behind. He said, you boys will have to go to the back of the bus. And I said, no, this is fine, thanks. We like it right here. And he turned around and said, no, you boys got to go to the back of the bus. I said, this is fine. He says, well, I'll have to call the police. So then, of course, I don't recall whether we got off the bus or whether or not I think we went to the back of the bus. And that was one of my first experiences.
Then there was an incident where you went to a dance.
Oh.
It was, I guess, all white soldiers in there, and there was a German POWs in there playing in the band.
Yes, I think
what happened?
I recall these were officers that was having a dance, and there was a prisoner of war Germans. They were playing the instruments, and of course we had the flag there, it was up, and they refused to play until they took the American flag down.
The German band refused to play until you took the American flag down. Did they take it down?
Yes.
And were you admitted to the dance?
No. We couldn't go to the dance in the first place because it was all white soldiers.
Yeah, but you were an officer, weren't you?
No, I was a
non-commissioned
officer. Yes.
There's one story that I know you have that I really want you to tell, and you had told me that the gentleman involved does not want his name. He's very hurt. He doesn't want his name mentioned, but we talked about it, and you said it because you know him. You thought it would be all right to read the newspaper article.
Yeah. I'm going to read this gentleman. I won't say his name, but this gives you an idea of how he felt. It says, on May 3rd, 1945, in the China Sea, 6 kamikaze planes slammed into the destroyer, killing 42 men in less than an hour. The only member of the damage control team was this gentleman I'm talking about. He manned the fire hose alone with a broken collarbone. Then he stayed on board to help the ship's doctor tend to the wounded as the medics abandoned the ship. This gentleman said the captain promised him a special citation from Washington, D.C., but it never came. The captain tried, but the Navy was too bigoted to give a black soldier credit or say anything towards the ship. That's not all. After the war, this gentleman says he was never invited to the crew's annual reunion. Dunnick, who was another gentleman, wants to lobby for this special decoration, but this gentleman wouldn't have it. He said it's too late.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's pretty sad.
Well, did they ever spot any submarines or enemy aircraft over in Santa Cruz?
I'll let him tell the story. The story about.
I got the story secondhand because my father and this other gentleman, Russell Dawson, who lives in Santa Cruz, those are the last two surviving members of this regiment. But Russell was telling the story. He says they fired the gun one time, and it was like maybe 2:30 in the morning, and one of the guys on post thought he saw a submarine out in the water, and so he fired the gun.
It was foggy, very foggy.
He fired the gun.
Very foggy.
Yeah, very foggy. Well, the coast. And these guns, they have a supercharger on it, so once it fires, then after a certain, when it starts going, it fires again. So when he fired it, when the supercharger kicked in, it sounded like he thought somebody was firing back. He said, "Damn, they're firing back." You know, so, you know, that was pretty funny. But if you can imagine, I mean, the neighborhood at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they fired this big gun. You know, that was funny. But that was the only time that they fired it that I know of.
Scared all of Santa Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
You were there about 4 years in that?
No, we were there about 2 years.
2 years. And then where did you go after that?
Well, after the 2 years, they had realized that they figured that they didn't need any more protection for the coast, that the Japanese weren't going to come now. So they didn't need us anymore for coast protection. So they changed us over to combat engineers, and then we had a little more training. It's a drastic transition from Coast Artillery to combat engineers. So we had, 2 or 3 months training, and then we went to the Philippine Islands to catch General MacArthur on the way back. Remember, he said, "I shall return." So we went to the Philippine Islands, and we were there when we were scheduled to invade Japan. So we landed in the Philippine Islands in Manila, and we were there for a few weeks. And then we got back on the ship to go up north, Sapporo, Hokkaido, to invade Japan. So while we were on the ship waiting, they dropped the atomic bomb. So that was a lifesaver
for you. So you
me
escaped
and
going to
many others. However, we went on up to Japan as scheduled. But of course, they had dropped the bomb and they had surrendered. So we went on up to Sapporo, Hokkaido, and we were there for a very short time. Then we came back to Atsuki Air Force Base. And that's where I was discharged in 1946.
You eventually made it back to Santa Cruz, and you settled there, didn't you? Didn't you try to buy a home or something? Or did you buy a home?
Yes, when I was discharged in 1946, I came back to Santa Cruz to live, like several families did. And I think this was during the time right after the World War II that they started building houses where veterans had a preference in certain areas. So I saw this advertised in the paper, and I said, well, according to this, I think I can handle it, the monthly payments, the down payments, etc. So I called the salesman on the phone and talked with him, and we agreed to meet on, I think it was Saturday. And since I'd been living for these years, and I wasn't quite a dummy, I knew certain prejudices existed, so I said, "Sir, I just want you to know before I come that I'm black." He said, "Oh," he said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, but there's this restrictive covenant that's in the contract of the owners, and I'm sorry, I cannot sell it to you." This also happened to the other fellow that's there, Dawson. The other
man who
the other
was
man,
at the
yes,
celebration with
yes,
you.
he still lives there in Santa Cruz. So I stayed there 4 years. Then,
Were you ever able to buy a home then, or
no.
what did you do when you were turned down?
Well, I stayed where I was, and then I was working, so I took the examination for the post offices. My family was just beginning. I only had one child then. That was this dude here. So I took the examination for the post office. I wanted to stay in Santa Cruz. I wanted to be a clerk carrier, a rural carrier. I also took the examination for San Francisco, PTS, post offices on the train. So I passed all the examinations, but they would never call me. And I kept checking, why haven't they called me, since I was number 2 on the list. So I had a friend that was working there, and he was saying they're hiring people all the time. So when I checked, I asked them why they hadn't called me. They said, well, a 10-point veteran came in, so that set you back. I'm only a 5-point veteran. In the meantime, the one in San Francisco called me. So I went to work down in San Francisco, and 5 years later, Santa Cruz finally got to my name, and they called me. But at that time, I had already bought my house in Menlo Park.
Oh, so you never bought a home in Santa Cruz?
No, I bought my
Where
house.
did Thurgood Marshall come in?
Well, that was while I was still in Santa Cruz before I left, is that I was the president of the Santa Cruz County NAACP. And a minister was coming down there from San Francisco. He wanted to buy a home there in Santa Cruz. So he bought this particular area. I don't remember what that area is called in Santa Cruz. Anyway, some of the people found out about he wanted to move in there, and they set the house afire. In the meantime, Thurgood Marshall, who was in Santa Cruz, I think he was there on a convention. So I found out about him, so I contacted him. So me being the president of the NAACP there in Santa Cruz, I called him, and we got together to go out to examine the place to see what it was like and the damage that was done. So that's how I came in contact with Thurgood Marshall.
Well, you had this celebration on November 11th. How did it come about? Why did they decide after all those years to have it?
Well, what happened is after the war, there's, like I said, several families moved there. And out near the, I can't think that area now, but anyway, it's where they had posted the advertisements and business issues about the city. They're right there near the...
By the pier?
Near the pier, well, on the Cliff Drive there.
Okay.
It's where the restrooms were. And it was just an article there, just, you know.
It was a dog park.
Well, not quite, well, maybe so. But anyway, it was just like a flyer there, and it had the picture of the gun and a few of us pictures there. But it was small, and it wasn't seen by everybody. So Dawson, his friend belongs to the women's club, so we got to talking, they got to talking, and saying the thing that they had done there and stayed there, that there should be more publicity than just this little small items. So that's how it really started. And his friend, they were like president of the women's club, and also Dawson was also in the reserves. He served in the reserves there for 4 years, military. So they thought that we should have more recognition. So that's how it began.
Well, it was a big turnout.
It was.
Describe it a little bit about who was there and what happened. And
well, I was certainly surprised because I'd never been through anything like that before. And initially, when they had the thing at the park, he and I was there, and there was still quite a few people there. And then later on, I think about 6 or 8 months later, the dedication, and I was really surprised. I was shocked. And I didn't realize how many people that were really thinking and really interested. And what we had done, and then the more that I think about it, I guess I was a little modest about saying what we had done, and so when that happened, I was really shocked. I still look at the pictures that were taken and the dignitaries that was there and the recognition that I have received.
Bands and
bands
dignitaries and
all that, and I still can't digest it, you know. So.
And the beautiful plaque.
Yes.
The beautiful plaque by the lighthouse there. That was really nice. Well, so you kind of overwhelmed by it then.
Yes. Yes.
How did you feel, William?
I was proud.
I bet you were.
You know, I was really proud. The plaque, they picked the perfect place to put it, right next to the lighthouse. You know, my family was there. They got to see that. You know, my mother my mother passed away in January, so my mother and father have been married for 67 years, and so she got a chance to see that.
Let me add, can I add something to what
Sure,
he said?
of course.
He said we were married for 67 years, but we were sweethearts for 70 years.
Oh,
We were childhood sweethearts.
Yeah.
beautiful story.
But anyway,
So,
I go fishing up there a lot, so you know I go by there so I can touch it.
Oh, how
You know,
sweet.
and then you know it's gonna be there forever. So when we're gone, it's like it's a part in history. They can't take that away. You know, so it was great. The ceremony was excellent. Playing the band, and we got to perform at the ceremony.
You're a drummer.
Yes, and that was great also. So it was really good. There was a lot of people that turned out, and it was really great to see that.
Are you part of the American Legion band, or you had your own
No,
band?
no, it was a different band. Yeah,
okay.
no, not the American Legion
And
band.
now, being a Vietnam veteran, I know you didn't actually see combat, but you had a lot of comrades who did. How did you feel? How did you compare what happened to your dad and maybe what happened with the Vietnam people?
Well, one of the things about the Vietnam people is the Vietnamese is you knew who your enemy was, you know, and what they're doing right now, they don't know who the enemy is, and the way that they were treated, we were treated when we got back is really disgraceful. It made you not want to be recognized. I mean, they get better treatment now because they're acknowledging them, but you didn't get that kind of treatment when we came back, when we got out the service. You
joined the American Legion, and what motivated you to do that and become so active in it?
Well, to me, it's all about the veteran. You know, the veterans' benefits. They're letting them know what they have when they come out, because a lot of them don't know. You know, our organization, I'm pretty proud of our post. Our post is, I think, is one of the oldest posts in California. It's been there 90-some years. The veterans, 50% of our veterans are World War II vets. So we need to get some younger people in, but that gives you an idea of and our membership is like maybe 340-some people strong.
Now, when you say it's 50% World War II, and I know there are not a lot of them around anymore, that tells me that they're still interested in being active, but the younger people, like the Vietnam vets, are not that interested in being involved.
That's true. One of the problems that we have is, I mean, they're in their 80s, and they may not the World War II ones. Yeah, I'm sorry, not the Vietnam vets, and so they don't get out much. And so the ones that are doing pretty good, they come out. But we'd like to see some of the newer vets, younger vets come in. And then it's a matter about letting them know what type of activities that we do, what we have, and what we'd like to see, and bringing them in.
Well, you're still active, aren't you? You're
Very
still
much so.
doing, what are you doing these days?
Oh, my goodness.
He's a chaplain of our post.
I belong to the American
Oh,
Legion
you do
also.
too?
Yes.
Okay.
I work with the seniors quite a bit. I was a volunteer for the seniors. I was a high cap counselor for years, and I just resigned from there for about 4 years ago. You know what high cap is?
No,
Health
I've
insurance,
heard it. I've
health
heard it,
insurance
but
counseling and advocacy program. It deals
I
mostly.
don't know what it is.
It deals mostly with your insurance,
Yeah,
Medicare.
I've seen it, and I think
Initially-
our program has had guests on, but I guess
Yes,
I was absent that day.
I went through that class the first when the inception, 1988.
Oh, wonderful.
And I still work with the seniors. I'm at the senior center 2 or 3 times a week. I volunteer. I help elderly people.
You're also in NAACP, still working in that?
No, I'm not working with them anymore. I'm bowling, and I
We-
have meetings all. I'm just busy every day. My day is busy all day long.
What's your age?
89.
89, okay.
I
And
can't
what were
believe
you
it, but the papers say that.
When we were talking about bowling, we bowl in like in a seniors league, right? And on Wednesdays, and the last 3 weeks, you know, Daddy would he won the pot, right? He was winning the pot for.
He's the best?
Well, I didn't say the best. He won the pot of money, right?
Oh, okay.
The highest series, right? So we bowled yesterday, and he didn't win yesterday. So, you know, it was funny because I said, well, Daddy, look, you know, you just can't win all the time. You know, it just got to the point where he was expecting to win. That's what was funny.
Oh,
Yeah. But it's good. I bowl with him. My brother bowls with him on Tuesdays, and then I bowl with him on Wednesdays. And, you know, it's really great.
so you're a very close family, keeping in touch. If there's any other stories that maybe would be of interest that maybe you feel like you wanted to tell, maybe I didn't ask the
I worked at, well, the Postal Transportation Service is what it was called, and the air mail facility there at the airport, they were in the same organization. When I wasn't on the train, I was could work at the post office in San Francisco, the Rincon Annex, or Station G, or Oakland Terminal. So I was working all the time for...
Well, you like working for the government, don't you?
I was told at a very young age. I remember coming out of the Depression in the 30s. And I remember people saying if you had a government job, you were set.
I'm so happy you're here. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.